We have a very special conversation with Maria Mejia of Wythe Customs Brokerage. And I'd love it if we could start, Maria, with a quick introduction of you and the company. Can you tell me a little bit about your role and where Wythe came from?
Of course. Hi, I'm Maria Mejia. I'm the broker and manager at Wythe Customs House. I started this company in 2019, where basically I've been heading operations and everything else involved in a new business and in customs compliance and human resources and operations manager and accounting and everything that has to do with starting the business and helping it grow.
Awesome. And I think Wythe has a little bit of history. So, you started this part of the company in 2019. How did your family get involved in customs brokerage, and what's the history there?
Yes, so we are a family business. Wythe's Customs House is a sister company to our Mexican brokerage, which was founded by my grandfather actually. So I am third generation broker.
Awesome.
And I grew up in this. I breathed this. My father, and my brothers are involved. My grandparents are no longer here, but I learned everything I know from them.
I can imagine that makes it really, feel very special and intimate to work with you guys as a company. You've got sort of these corporate machines out there, and then you've got someone who, the family grew up in Mexican customs brokerage. You've got three generations of the family involved. Your U.S. brokerage gets started in 2019. I would imagine some of that makes it feel awesome to work with you guys. What do you think makes it special for your customers to work with Wythe?
Of course, it's amazing to be able to learn from my father how he's built the business to what it is today. And I would say that what customers like about our company and why they keep coming to us is customer service. We always tell them they get to know us on a personal level. The brokers, we are 24/7 available to them. A lot of time they contact us instead of their executive, and we just like building personal relationships with our customers. Many of our customers have started as a small company and have grown their business thanks being able to import and export, and that means growth for them too.
What were some of the things that you feel like really were kind of customized into the context of Wythe? You sort of mentioned tailor-made, and it felt like an operation that was really custom to you. What do you mean by that?
Well, I don't know how other clients of Doc and Lock work, but for me, basically it was high volume, and he was able to, well, how do you receive information? How do you want me to put in? Where do you want me to pull the information from? What's important to you, and don't worry about the rest, I'll do it. So that was just kind of like music to my ears.
So for your team, it was kind of like, we don't have to change very much about the way that the operation works, right? Our customers, they're emailing us documents. We'd like to be able to, process
Exactly.
that very quickly.
Sorry, excuse me. I didn't have to notify my client like, hey, now you're going to send the information like this. Like they weren't affected. They kept sending the information as they usually would, and clients send it different ways. So that's why I say Doc and Lock was tailor-made to us. And my employees, their data import, their day-to-day was just simplified.
Maybe how long did it take to get up and running, or any sort of surprises or unexpected benefits as you were getting up and running?
Not at all. It was a few years back, but I would say it was honestly really easy. Ned and Sep were always available, always willing to learn and to help. I guess the onboarding was honestly the easiest part for me.
Okay, you're using Doc Unlock now. Like, what is your team still doing? Where you've got these people, they're still the same people. Obviously you haven't gone and fired your whole team. So where did you focus their work, and what are they, sort of doing on a regular basis? And what does Doc Unlock take them off the plate so that you can focus on that?
Especially with everything going on today with the tariffs, for the employees to have that extra time throughout the day has really helped um, alleviate stress that I had for me running reports and making sure everything was correct. They are able to run reports on themselves, by themselves, I'm sorry, um, and send them to me, and I just kind of oversee,
Yeah.
which has really taken a load off of my back.
I'm curious, if there's any way that you think differently about AI than you did before we started working together. Where do you feel, it's had the biggest impact? And what are some of the things that maybe your mind has changed about as it pertains to AI and how it might impact a customs brokerage?
Honestly, I was kind of scared at the beginning, but then going forward and seeing how it's a very smart system to where the more repetitive and more operations go by, the smarter it gets. So the least I'm least and least worried, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So I've kind of learned to trust it more than I did at the beginning.
I see. So you had some concerns like maybe AI would make mistakes or it would be difficult to catch them. And what you've found is that, that process of really building up the knowledge of the system, has been smoother than you might have thought.
Correct.
That's awesome. Really helpful. What about the team? I think, I'm curious, because I think a lot of folks in this industry, they really think about AI as something that could be like job displacing, or, oh my gosh, are customs brokers even going to exist in the future? What's going to happen? Is AI going to handle all this? As a customs broker, sort of using AI, what do you think about where it lives and where it doesn't live, and sort of like what a customs broker can be when using this technology? If you have any thoughts there.
Um, I don't know for the rest of the world, but for our business, I think that brokers will continue to exist, employees for brokers will continue to exist, because there are regulations that state that you cannot, like a robot or AI cannot transmit on your behalf. You are the responsible one to transmit. This is why Doc Unlock only does the data input, and we are responsible for the transmission. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's some regulation.
Yeah.
Although I also think maybe some of the work changes a little bit where, there are all of these manual tasks to do. But then I think also, customers are calling you 14 hours a day with questions. They need help. We've got IEEPA, we've got steel and aluminum, we've got copper maybe, there's Europe deals, there's China deals. Is changing so often. I would imagine, the time that you need to invest with clients, is becoming more and more important. Are you seeing that too? And, I would imagine some of the manual work being taken off the plate might help to focus in some of those places.
No, there 100% needs to be a person, a thinking person behind this,
Yeah.
because by seeing a commercial invoice, there are a lot of things that you need to interpret into law that a robot cannot decipher on themselves. They need to talk to the client. Oh, we are invoicing this because this, and what type of where is it from, and what's the material. Especially today, there are so many things that by looking at an invoice, it may seem one way, but in reality, you can fall into different, right now, different tariffs or different regulations.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think those complexities are also really one of the places where it makes it important to work with someone who's very familiar, with the entry writing process and with customs specifically. I know we hear this from folks all the time, but there's lots of software out there that focuses on AI and automation, for us, focusing heavily on customs brokerage specifically and entry writing even more specifically, it's really important because of how complicated that task is